Welcome, Juventini, back to the All Juvecast, and this is going to be episode 150, and we're going to recap the 3-1 victory versus Cagliari and the Cristiano Ronaldo hat trick, and we're going to tackle some surrounding news and maybe talk a little bit on transfers, especially in follow-up to the Mirko Di Natale interview and whatnot. And covering this one with me today, I have Francisco. Francisco, great to see you, my friend. And we got Chris, a newcomer making his debut to the All Juvecast. And Chris has had, a mixed week here, Congratulations on, the baby boy and then, throwing in a Porto loss and now a Cagliari victory all into 1 week. Here you go. But it's great having you on, Chris.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. You know the routine around here. We'd love to hear your story, how you became a Juventino.
Well, it's a lot different than many others. I grew up in New York, obviously, and in the 8th grade, I was taking Italian, and we had to randomly select. The teacher wanted us to randomly select a team from Serie A that we followed all season long, and if we ended up winning that competition, they ended up winning the Scudetto back then, we got a free lunch for that day. And of course, I think we know what happened in 1999-2000. That was probably one of the most painful Juve seasons, losing by a point to Lazio, I believe.
Yeah.
That was pretty painful. So since then, I was a big Juve fan. My grandpa always liked Buffon. He wasn't a huge soccer fan, but I remember watching the World Cup with them back in 2006. I know that's when Juve really hit the radar because they had the likes of Buffon on the squad, Chiellini. Obviously, Italy won the World Cup. And then Juve had a reverse year because we had all those issues with getting dropped down to Serie B.
Yeah.
And having to come back. But yeah, it's been about 1999-2000 is when I first became a fan, and then I really got more into it around the World Cup era,
around
2006.
The World Cup era. There you go. That's funny. So starts off trying to get a free lunch, eh? And then kind of goes.
It was a random selection. That's the whole thing. So he went around. He had all the teams in the hat. We had to select the team, and mine just happened to be Juventus.
There you go.
It gave me a reason to follow it all season long. So
there you go. That is definitely the first time that story has come up, and I don't know if I'll ever hear of a team being selected in that manner. That's awesome, though, man. That's really, really awesome. Have you had a chance to make it over and watch a game live?
I have not live. No,
not yet. Okay.
I did see them play in New Jersey a couple seasons back, but to the stadium, no, I have not.
All right. And when they made their North American tour there and you saw them in New Jersey, did you get a chance to meet any of the players or anything?
No, unfortunately, I didn't.
Yeah, it's I'm hoping, once things get to normal and whatnot, those North American tours come back and who knows, maybe we connect sometime and take in one in North America here.
Yeah,
but I can't wait till the matches kick back and, fans are back in the stadium because I don't know about you guys, but it's just not the same. And I know that our atmosphere, was struggling and there was issues with the Curva Sud, but we absolutely have to get fans back in the stadium. So hopefully soon, my friends. And now the task at hand, Cagliari Juventus recap. And we kick it off with the starting lineups. Interesting to see people's reactions when they saw the lineup because we had Szczesny in goal, Quadrado, De Ligt, Chiellini, and Sandro round out the back with Kulusevski, Danilo, Rabiot, Chiesa across the middle, Morata, CR7 up top. When I originally saw this lineup, I was instantly expecting the same thing we saw against Lazio. And I was seeing a lot of people that were saying it could still possibly be that 4-4-2. But the second I saw Quadrado, Sandro, and Danilo, I thought, no, this would be that 4-2 kind of 3-1 hybrid setup we saw against Lazio, but played out 4-4-2. What were you guys expecting? How did you guys feel about the lineup? Let's start with Francisco.
Well, frankly, it was the the lineup that I thought it was gonna go in because of obviously because of the Miral's injury and maybe that Chiellini wasn't and Chiellini and Bonucci are still not physically 100% because they haven't played like Bonucci has played more, but he still is not 100% fit in at least physical condition. But in the other places, it was the lineup that I thought it was gonna go in. I did worry because man, that midfield without Arthur, we don't have nothing. So the thing that I was hopeful about is that when I saw the role that Kulusevski was going to play, I did. I have noticed that when Kulusevski plays that role, Juve is much more vertical and better on counters because of the speed of Kulusevski and the type of player that he is. He likes to go forward fast. And they in the first game against Lazio, even though we tied and everybody was mad, that's something that I like because we could have won that game, frankly, on many counters. And in this game, we had many counters that we didn't execute well, but
Yeah.
that started good with Kulusevski. So on that thing, I was happy, but I was worried. I was a little worried.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, for me, the concern would have been having one true pivot, like kind of Rabio solely in there, and just as a 4-4-2, a little bit interesting. But Danilo, I was very very impressed with his showing against Lazio, so I thought we'll be okay there. Chris, your thoughts when you saw the lineup?
I like the lineup. I figured they were going to perform because there's nothing more dangerous than Juventus than an angry Juventus. So I was hoping that based on the result from the previous game, as we all know, that all the players will come out and pretty much have a fire lit underneath them.
Yeah,
Because I mean, Ronaldo didn't perform. I mean, you can go down and down from that Porto game, but I don't want to go back there, obviously. But I don't think a lot of players outside of very few performed, and they haven't been performing most of the season. So playing Calgary, playing with this lineup, I felt like we had more talent overall, and I felt like the players were going to be in their position and actually perform and do what they did. So I mean, they got the win, but I did think the lineup was going to be able to perform enough to see out the victory.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I mean, honestly, having some discussions with Juventini leading up to this one, we should be winning this one. The response would have been key because that's what everybody was looking for. The response, the fight back, the pushback after what had happened midweek, and see how the team would react and give us the sign that we're going to fight right to the bitter end and at least try and attack that Scudetto the best way possible. Right, so it was all about the reaction. So yeah, I agree with you 100% there. We get to some key points over the first half, then we'll talk about halftime, then we'll touch on the key points second, and then we'll get to a lot of topics we'll cover here in this one. So basically, we kick off the match. It's actually quite open right out of the gate. A little back and forth there, and doesn't really take Juve long to strike. As everyone sees on the ticker there, Cristiano Ronaldo, 10th minute. Chiesa gets a nice crossover to the back post there. It goes out for a corner kick, and Quadrado puts in a fantastic ball off the corner, and CR7 made a nice little stutter step run, lost his man, and hammers it home 1-0. Fantastic start. We keep working here, and in the 13th minute, challenge from Chiesa doing some great work down low, crossing the ball in, trying to get it into Cristiano Ronaldo. He goes in on this challenge with the goalkeeper, clips him in the face, bloodies up Cranio there, and gets the yellow. And you have a lot of shouts. And I know who these shouts are for a red card there. I know who they're coming from. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts on anything more there than a yellow. Could you see the red potentially?
I got worried for a second. I'll be honest.
Were you worried? I was worried for a second too, if I was being honest here.
I actually tweeted to Football Italia. I was tracking the game and watching it at the same time, and I was like, "Any chance for a red card?" And he said, "No, I don't think so. That would be a little bit harsh." I was a little bit worried because they're protecting goalkeepers a lot more. I feel like this season and last, it's been an ongoing thing where the goaltenders are being protected a little more, in my sense. And with Ronaldo, with Juventus being frustrated, I was hoping that the referee didn't take all those into account and send him off because he got him in the face. I mean, that was the whole thing from my point of view. I mean, he kicked him in the face, so I would have seen a very harsh red. I wouldn't have been surprised based on how the season's gone. But if I was just an outsider watching this game without being a fan of bias of either team, I think it was a fair yellow.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to note too, like Pirlo, when asked about it in the press conference, and Pirlo said, well, no, his intention, he was looking at the ball and he was playing for the ball. That matters nothing in the rule book.
No.
You have to have control and whatnot. So it was very interesting. I was like you. I was worried, not really sure, could see it going either way. Francisco, concerns over that one when it happened?
Yeah, because it was a hit on the face, and it wasn't a reckless, because if a goalkeeper goes out recklessly, right, in a way that endangers him and the other player, then you can say, well, he went out crazy, but he didn't went out crazy. It was a ball close to his area. He just went up to grab it. I was worried because it was on the face and you see the blood. And when you start see the blood on the face, it's a blindside hit, because at the end of the day, that's why I do like that they are protecting the goalkeepers, in the sense that the goalkeepers are not watching the other players. They're trying to grab the ball. So the hits are going to come, I'm not saying every time, but sometimes the goalkeeper is not even watching the player that's coming. So that's the in boxing there's the saying in they obviously say is the punch that knocks you out is the one that you don't see coming.
Yeah.
And those balls are very, very dangerous. So that's why I was worried that maybe the referee sees the ball and he's like red. But because of I know intention is not on the rule book, but honestly, Cristiano was playing the ball. What I will say to him, without being obviously a professional player, is, for me, that's a little stupid way to go for a ball when it's in the small area.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could see it a couple different ways there, and it's a tough one. It's a tight one. I think Chris summed it up pretty good. You could definitely see it going either way. In the end, he ends up with a yellow card, which was
thank God.
Yeah, best possible scenario for us, and we move on again. Pretty open match, Chiesa coming up on the wing here in about the 21st minute, and he makes another great pass over to Morata, who's in clear, and it looked like, I don't think he realized how much time he had to take a touch and truly hit it, because he just kind of looked like he flashed at it. He puts it right at Grano, and the instant regret all over his face is written in this one. And Morata, you could see the struggles quickly in this match for Morata. He was the one that was seemingly struggling there. And then 24th minute, 3 minutes later, we go route one. Cagliari gets caught on a press. Morata and Ronaldo coming up, two defenders back for Cagliari. Morata does play a good ball into Cristiano, and again, another one of these 50-50s. Grano comes out, and Ronaldo got the touch just just to get the touch at that point. It's almost like he knew the contact was coming in. Ball obviously going high and wide, but the contact from Granio, easy call, PK, and Cristiano Ronaldo steps up, buries it. It's 2-0 for Juventus. So fantastic. Again, Ronaldo reacting, scoring. And then 32nd minute, he completes it. He gets it done. And Chiesa cutting in from the wing again, making a really, really good pass over to find Ronaldo, who triggers the 1v1 against a feared defender in Daniele Rugani. And Cristiano goes 1v1 with him, does his step overs, hits it left. So he completes the hat trick. Right footer, left footer, header. PK in there. There you go. 3-0. 34th minute. Sandro has to leave the match, which frustrating for Juventini and injuries and whatnot. You would have to think it's injury related in the 34th minute to have to pull one of those guys out. So Bernardeschi ends up coming in, and there was a lot of shouts for Bernardeschi to start the match if we were going to play in this 4-4-2. So I found it pretty interesting to see how Bernardeschi would do. But we finished the half 3-0. We see Cristiano Ronaldo's celebrations. We see the reaction. Great half. And I just it was pretty straightforward. It was an open match. I think if you're going to play fairly open with Juventus, these guys should be feeding off that. Chiesa, Kulusevski, Ronaldo, Morata. But Morata was the only one I was seeing like really, really struggling. I was perfectly fine with the combination of Rabiot, Danilo in there. Danilo intercepted a lot, was doing a good job. Guys at the back were doing fine. I really only saw Morata having a tough time, but I felt good at half, and I thought, hey, keep going. And I saw a lot of comments from Juventini, get the route. Like, keep going, keep pushing, like fighting, like make that statement, right? How are you guys feeling at halftime? And what were you expecting going into the second half? Did you want foot on the throttle? Did you say, hey, manage this one out or whatnot? We know what we get, and we're going to talk about it. And I know Francisco's going to talk about what we get. But how are you guys feeling at halftime? Let's start with Francisco, then we'll get Chris's thoughts here. So, Francisco, what were your thoughts at half?
I was pretty happy because we talked about it before we started recording. I knew what Kulusevski could give us on the counter. And I knew it, and when I saw the game, I said, it confirmed my idea. It's great giving Juventus those vertical counters when you have Kulusevski and Chiesa, and then you have Cuadrado that can go on that right wing. Juventus gains a lot on the counters. And I was like, kill them. Keep going. I don't care. 4-0, 5-0, don't stop, because not only because of the score, obviously, because Juventus needed a win in which they trashed the other team, in which they destroyed the other team, and everybody performed, and everybody could say, okay, maybe we lost in Champions League, where everybody's sad, but this Juventus team is really, really dangerous on Serie A still, because let's remember, we still have one game against Napoli that we need to play, and we have one game against Inter, which if Juventus wins both games, things change. There are no 10 points anymore, so we needed to show that, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Like my father always said, if you have the enemy if your enemy is down, you step on them and you don't let them get up. Because if you let them get up, then you're going to have problems. And thank God it didn't happen, but it was close.
Yeah, there you go. And Chris, your thoughts at half?
I was pleased that they were up 3-0, but there were a couple missed opportunities, like with Morata. Like you said, he had a lot of extra space, and he looked kind of shell-shocked that he got the ball, and obviously he didn't score. Kind of like what Francisco said, I was a little worried that, it was 3-0, and the fact of my biggest issue was if Cagliari scores, and Juventus takes the foot off the gas, then, they could have found a second somehow, and then who knows? I mean, we know how the second half turned out. I would have liked another goal. I would have made me feel a little more comfortable. But yeah, overall, with the 3-0 at halftime, I was pleased. I really wanted to see their response in the second half. So that's how I gauged it up to that point.
Yeah. And there you go. And Lewis coming in saying energy in the first half was brilliant. The reaction shows a belief in the team and the project, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, that's the energy. That's what we've been asking for a lot, And the biggest question mark, again, with Juventus, and, to piggyback off Francisco and his thoughts, you have the enemy down, step on. And don't give them chance. Don't give them hope. And my biggest thing with this Juventus is playing the complete 90 minutes. And this has been something that's followed Juventus for a few seasons now. And it's that 90-minute performance. And we'll see what takes place in the second half as we go through some key moments here. So really, out of the gate in the second half, Cagliari forces Szczesny into action on a free kick in the 55th minute. A minute later, Szczesny has to stop a big drive from just outside the area. And then 4 minutes after that, this is a combination of a few little errors, and Bernardeschi gets sucked in a little too tight to his man on the flank there. He gets in behind him. At that point, De Ligt and Chiellini are both manned up. And the second that player gets in behind Bernardeschi, Chiellini kind of goes and gets sucked over there. Danilo then tries to get back. It's too late. And De Ligt had followed his man, essentially took him right behind Chiellini. So, a little bit of communication there. Maybe De Ligt ends up going to Simeone, who all Simeone did was stand in one spot. As soon as that player got behind Bernardeschi, he got sucked over there. I saw a lot of blame get pointed at Danilo there or whatnot, but if you guys look at the goal broken down, Chiellini and De Ligt were manned up. Everything was fine. The second that player breaks free of Bernardeschi, that's where the problem starts to lie in trying to cover there. And Chiellini got sucked over trying to take the pass, but he probably anticipated Simeone moving, but Simeone just stayed in that trailing hole and was able to find it. 3-1. And a good response on Cagliari's end of it to the second half. And then again, it's pretty interesting because the game was pretty open even in the first half. And then all of a sudden, now we got one goal. If they get another one, they've got hope. And now they have hope, even with this one, right? And it was all about stepping on your opponent's throats here. So we continue on. 64th minute, a nice little reaction from Bernardeschi. Makes a great run forward, finds Rabiot after beating several players. Rabiot gets in deep, tries to get it to CR7, who has bodies all around him, and it gets cleared out there. There was a window to pass it to the trailing players. There was Bernardeschi and a couple others in the same vicinity. You saw the frustration on Bernardeschi because he wanted that ball back, and that should have been the play. But it's interesting that this happens because I asked a question in the Lazio match for everybody listening to the pod and whatnot. It was, does Rabiot shoot that one that he scores against Lazio if Cristiano's in the area? And it's an interesting question. And then you see this little scenario play out, and I can't help but think, these guys, they play a certain way when he's in there, and they're always looking for him and stuff. And maybe sometimes it can factor a difference in ball progression and whatnot. So it was just interesting to see. 69th minute, Bonucci comes in for Chiellini. McKennie comes in for Morata. The 75th minute, CR7 does a good job, settles the ball for Rabiot, and Rabiot does have a rip there, gets blocked and deflected out for a corner kick. And then we continue on. Bernardeschi again, another great play from him coming off the flank there. He puts in a beautiful outside of the boot cross. Bonucci, of all people, trying to get to it, just can't reach it there. But some good positive things out of Bernardeschi in that spot. So good to see. 82nd minute, we get Artur entering for Chiesa. Frabotta coming in for Quadrado. Cagliari continues to push. Juve has just, they've settled in this second half. You know, there were counter attempts here and there, but not the same. 85th minute, Cagliari comes close, just firing one wide. They get a couple more opportunities, nothing too severe. And then in the 94th minute, there's the 4-1 goal. You figure, right? CR7 sent in all alone. Gragno actually makes a big save. It goes over and wide. Match ends 3-1. It's a Juventus victory. They had the right attitude, but did they let it slip away in the second half? And this is where it gets interesting. AJ coming in saying playing well takes energy and stamina. This team cannot play well for 90 minutes. So my issue was, if you wanted to manage a game, even if you were planning on managing it, it's very, very difficult to do without possession. You know, so ball retrieval, still continuing with the energy of winning the ball back and retrieving it has to take place, because if you're trying to manage a game without the ball, life is going to be very, very difficult. And that is my counter to AJ, because it's a lot more energy used when you don't have possession of the ball. So it's very, very difficult to try and play that shutdown game, especially for an entire half. It was frustrating because we wanted to see them just step on the throats, don't give them any life, whatnot. But we gave them hope, and we tried to fall back into this management mode, right? So your guys, we'll start with Chris on the second half, and then we'll get it to Francisco for his thoughts. So Chris, game ends 3-1. Were you a little frustrated in the second half? Your take?
Second half, a little bit disappointed. Obviously, I expected them to come out, and because Cagliari is fighting relegation, you know, in that relegation battle, I expected them to come out and try to, you know, make a game of it. I believe in the second half, I could be mistaken, but I think Quadrado, at one point, he headed the ball and it hit his hand, which is not a handball. Believe that was in the second half.
Yeah.
I was worried because I think it was 3-1 at that point, that if they gave the penalty, it could have been 3-2. Cagliari had another play where they crossed the ball straight in front of the goal, and nobody was there to try to get it on Szczesny. I just felt like there was a few defensive lapses, obviously, on the goal. Like you said, Semino standing around and just knocks it in. It was just, I did feel like Juve tried at some point, but I don't think they went forward 100%. I think they kind of laid back a bit. They kind of invited a lot more pressure. And I felt like the possession completely flipped from the way it was in the first half. I felt like they relaxed a little bit. They let up the goal. They said, still 3-1. And then, like I said, that Quadrado issue, that could have been an extremely harsh penalty kick if Cagliari got it. The cross in front of the goal where nobody was there, thank God, because that would have probably been a goal more times than not.
Yeah.
And I could have, honestly, just looking back at the recap and everything, I could have seen a way that they could have gotten back in it or tied the game. I mean, if that call against Quadrado goes against him, it hits his hand, and they call a penalty kick, and then somebody's in the wrong place or in the right place for Cagliari across the goal.
Well, not only that, Chris, you know, and not trying to cut you off there, but not only that, but the opportunities in general, right? Cagliari was getting opportunities. They were taking shots. They started to test Szczesny quite a bit there. It looked like Juve just wanted to kind of hit them on the counter. And we didn't get that many opportunities on the counter in the second half. I remember Quadrado almost getting one over to Chiesa on the far post with a good cross that almost would have been the sealer too, right? But yeah, you invite a lot of that pressure, and yeah, opportunities like that come up. The Quadrado mistake, heading it off his hand and whatnot. Those things happen. because you're inviting so much attack from the opponent rather than controlling it with the ball. So it was frustrating, man. Keep going.
No, I mean that's pretty much what it was. I felt like Szczesny had a lot more to deal with in the second half. I didn't see much attack or fight from Juve in the offensive part, and watching soccer for so many years, you see that teams that just sit back in a defensive shell, they're not really that successful. I mean, if you look back on standings, most of the teams, yes, they say championships win, defense wins championships. Yes, but when you're not getting any offense, that's a problem. And all it takes is one wrong bounce to make it a game, to make it a one-shot game at 3-1. So
yeah, I think there's, it's really tough, like, I mean, it's impressive to watch when a team can completely, neutralize another, right? But it's another thing when that team you're trying to neutralize, like if you wanted to manage this one out and hit them on counters or whatnot, if they're getting chance after chance after chance, like getting legit opportunities here, it's time to switch it up and maybe crank it up again and say, hey guys, we can't do this right now. Like let's keep going. But I saw it just a little bit too comfortable. That's the part I don't like. Okay, so even if you wanted to play that way, the energy, the level still needs to be at a certain standard. Francisco, I know you've been probably biting your lip there because you wanted to talk about this second half. Fire away, my man.
I was pissed. I was angry at the second half because I didn't see enough intensity. And honestly, I'm not asking you to play like the game is 0-0 because obviously the game is 3-0. We're winning the game in a very comfortable way. So obviously the team is gonna low down a little bit, which is normal. But it was a neither half for me. Neither Juventus attacked, neither they defended good enough. So Juventus had shown that maybe they were not the most creative team, but if they got one score, the thing that they showed this season is that if Juventus didn't want the game to continue, the game wasn't going to continue because they showed that against Inter. They showed that in other game against Roma when they did the adjustments. Roma, the danger was over. The other team was pretty. Obviously, they will have their occasions because they are good teams, but I felt very comfortable in those games that okay, these people are attacking, but they are not going to score. And you saw it in the eyes of the defense, and you saw it in the midfield. These people are not going to score. In this game, I didn't saw that. I saw Juventus that was pretty nonchalant, that they were allowing Cagliari to move the ball easily. They're not pressuring, they're not defending without the ball because that's the thing. You can dominate the game without having the possession by dictating what the game is played at. You dictate where the game is played at, and it doesn't affect you. Then you're dominating the game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But Juventus didn't dominate the game, and I was so angry. And the only time that I saw Juventus get a little better was when Cagliari scored. I saw Chiellini, and Chiellini was so pissed. He was like damn, they scored. Like he wanted the game to end on a clean sheet because that's his thing. You know, Chiellini, that's his thing. He doesn't like the other teams to score, and he was so pissed, and you saw it on his face. In Juventus, they play a little better after that. But for me, I respected a lot more Cagliari's game at the end of the match than what Juventus did. Because when you have the quality of players that Juventus have, you expect that on certain plays, you're going to score. You have players like Cristiano, 2-3 plays, 2-3 scores, the game is over. That's how it is. But to be 3-0 and just let the other team roll and dance over you, no. For me, that's completely unacceptable because the intensity wasn't there. and that's something that I will never accept. No intensity, no blood in your eyes. No, I cannot. I can't stand that. I was so angry with that.
Yeah, and we got some comments coming in, and Guinea here just saying at this point, I think we're just used to Juventus cruising to a win. Lewis saying, I'll never get used to Juve just seeing out games. Always gonna annoy me. Eric, respectfully disagreeing that we let off. He thought tactically we changed our game plan, and we would be having a different convo if Bonucci's header went in or Chris's goal at the end go in. And he also got to think that Cagliari is playing with pride as well. For me, it's a bit of both. We talked about it. I already talked about it. You could see the game plan had changed. It was going to be, we'll hit them on counters if they open up, or if they still don't want to open up, we'll control the game and see it out. The problem is not with the change of the game plan. The problem is that, again, like I alluded to before, if that's your game plan, you still have to execute it at a certain level. You still have to have that drive and that motivation to focus, that level of focus and concentration. For me, it was too comfortable. So even when you change, and again, there is a mentality that comes with that type of play. It's easy to do so. Juventus historically plays down to competition with a 3-0 lead. And this is one thing that was always discussed. I remember through 2 coaches in my lifetime that I played for. And they were 2 different sports, one being football, the other being North American football. And both coaches would be furious. There was 2 coaches I played for in respects, and they were the same mentality and attitude, alluding to what Francisco's father had said too with the enemy and whatnot. But it was, the saying was, you're either part of the steamroller or part of the pavement, and it was just like you have to remain at this level, whether the game plan changes or not. You have to remain at one level. And they used to be furious because if you went into a game taking it too lightly, or you made a tactical change and then all of a sudden you guys weren't playing at the same level, the same energy, the same movement off the ball or whatnot, it creates bad habits that can go into following matches or following sequences. So it's all about that. I respect the fact that, yes, we changed the game plan and whatnot. We wanted to do that. However, the times we did get the ball, the movement stopped that we saw in the first half. You know what I mean? So it became very hard to even start to control the possessions. Then all of a sudden, we are linked to just straight counterattacks. And obviously, those counterattacks, a few of them in the second half, opened up a bit better because we allowed Cagliari to push so much. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's a little bit of both. So I agree with Eric in terms. I agree with Francisco in his terms as well. I think there's someone that you have to find a solid balance, that if you want to play this type of game and you say, okay, now second half, let's shut them down or whatnot, but you still have to be at the level matching your opponents. And I can't actually say we match them on that level, even if we wanted to just defend.
No.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We certainly didn't. And I want to clarify, it's not about possession. Tactically, you can say, give them the ball and then go out. But it's the intensity. We didn't defend with the same intensity. We stopped being physical in the middle and in the back. We paid the price.
Yeah, exactly. And Jordan coming in here asking the same thing. Do you think Pirlo's talk at halftime was job done, relax? Or do you think we went in second thinking relax, get another few more goals? We were just talking about this, Jordan. I think the game plan obviously shifted to hit them in a counter when you can, but just shut it down and lock it up. But the problem is, this Juve is not like the Juve of old when it comes to locking it up. It's just a little bit leaky, maybe not the same confidence we had in the Juve of old. But I want to get to some of these other discussions, and I want to get the Juventini that are joining us live their thoughts on certain players here and whatnot. Because we saw Kulusevski in a different role that Francisco has started to talk to and whatnot. And the mix bag of what I saw on comments on social media for Kulusevski playing out of this role was quite interesting. And, we get to it, and some say he is not Juve caliber already, just flat out. He is not Juve caliber. We have others saying he lacks vision. We have others criticizing his decision making and whatnot. So for me, I don't think he lacks vision. And there are obviously varying degrees of vision that players can have, right? You have your elite levels of vision, and then you have guys with decent amount of vision to get in there. So the thing is with Kulusevski, for me, I think he has vision. I think there's a bit of an issue trying to get him comfortable because he's played a lot of his minutes as a second striker. I don't see him as a second striker. I absolutely do not see him as a second striker. In terms of Kulusevski, I think he's been his best when he's been behind the forwards, and allowed that room to kind of run up and attack. I think when we put him too high up, the space gets tighter and whatnot. It doesn't suit him. I think he's got to be playing out of there. Ideally for him, I think attacking mid behind the two forwards, that's the best role. He showed some good showings in there, but then Ramsey took that role and just kind of ran with it, and that's Pirlo. We know how highly Pirlo rates Ramsey, but I think that's naturally where Kulusevski should be, is behind those forwards. Ideally, with our setup, it's a bit challenging because if Pirlo wants to continue with a 4-4-2 that changes on a hybrid, it's a bit tougher for Kulusevski. If we played a true 3-5-2, I would see him as that third attacking mid ahead of the other two, in behind the two forwards. But in this hybrid setup, it's a little tough for him. He came from a 4-3-3, playing either up on the wing or as one of those three in the middle. But with us, it's a little bit different. The role changes in that hybrid setup, so it's very difficult. But so far, Kulusevski has had a bit of an issue trying to kind of make a position his home. But, what did you guys think? We know kind of Francisco's touching on some of his traits and whatnot, but overall, his tenure so far, like this one season with Juve, I don't think it's fair for some that are saying he's not Juve caliber. I think that's way too early to judge. And again, I think you have to factor in all these other things to think about. But Chris, your thoughts on this match, Kulusevski's performance and whatnot?
Good and bad, and it's been like that all season for him. You have to remember he came from Parma, so he came from a team that was basically trying to stay up and a team that was mid, Serie A table. So he didn't have the pressure, I believe, at Parma that he did at Juventus, because at Juventus we're expected to compete for championships, so forth, and standings, things like that. But I think overall in the season, we've seen good things and we've seen bad things. I mean, I do think that he has to be more in the midfield attacking role, as you stated. I don't think he's a premier striker, and we shouldn't put him up there. I mean, we have Ronaldo, we have Morata. When Dybala comes back, we put him up front. But I do think that he is young, he has a lot of energy, and he can distribute the ball, as mainly an attacking midfielder. He can get it to Ronaldo, he can get it to Morata, but because he's young, I feel like he has a lot of speed, and he does have a higher ceiling, to the point where, he is a good prospect for Juventus. He is a good player at the moment, but I do think he'll continue to grow. So while when we signed him, I didn't think Juventus signed him thinking, oh, he's going to be an all-star immediately, because it takes time. If you're coming from a smaller club, it's going to take some time. It's the same thing, with any young player you sign. I mean, we have older players that may not be as fast, look at Chiellini. Ronaldo's eventually slowing down at some point when it comes to speed. But I do think he will continue to grow. He'll fit more into the scheme of things as far as and he'll be more of an everyday starter type of thing.
Yeah. And I think just positionally, it's finding that home. It's putting him in favorable scenarios for that confidence to grow and him to reach the level he needs to. When we see him trying to do hold-up play and whatnot, there's a lot of struggles there. That's a part of his game that's just not at that level yet. But when he's able to get into situations where he has a bit more time, he can look upfield, and maybe make decisions. There was a couple instances in this match where he showed some great technical ability in shifting out of away from two players and then able to start a run for us. So the potential's there. I think when he's up closer to the front with back to goal especially, the struggles show up. It's a job he shouldn't really be doing. And I think a lot of that has to do with who you're pairing him with as well, because if he's asked to do the hold-up play, it struggles there. But Francisco, your thoughts in this one with Kulusevski and overall with Kulusevski?
In this one, I did saw some very good things about him. Obviously, he went up and down in the game. Everyone went up and down in this game, so it's not fair because we've been praising Chiesa for the last games, deservedly so. But in the second half, he didn't do anything. So let's not act like he was the only one went up and down. I did saw the positive. Juventus was more vertical, better counters, and they did had that guy who could start the counter fast and have the ball. Overall, with Kulusevski, he's 20 years old, guys.
Yeah,
20 years old. And for everybody who is saying, he's not Juventus material, which I'm not saying he is, but let's be careful. Some month ago, Demiral wasn't Juventus material, and we should sell him. Ciro Immobile just received the Golden Boot. He wasn't Juventus. He's not Juventus material. Let's go way back. Thierry Henry wasn't Juventus material. We need to be careful with these young guys. Not every young guy is going to come at 20 years old, 20, 21, 22, and be a world beater.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen. That's not normal. Many players develop themselves later on their career. Papu Gomez developed himself later in his career. Luis Alberto developed himself later in his career. So if we're going to sell every kid that comes that doesn't win the Ballon d'Oro in his first year with Juventus, then we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's one thing we talked about, I think, even before coming in here. And it's just, we can't expect them all to be like those generational talents that are there at that level right out of the gate. And especially you have to look at the perspective of the positions and, Kulusevski getting comfortable. And I always say when you get these young guys, the second season will tell you a lot more than the first. He's still going to be very, very young, but that second season will tell you much, much more with these guys as far as what you have and whatnot. Kulusevski, we can see the flashes. We can see what's there. It's not like it's completely missing or whatnot. I think it becomes more of how do we put him in a position to succeed and get that out of him more often than not. And I think that's honestly a question Pirlo needs to answer and figure out in the setup. I think he's closer to it when Kulusevski plays out of the midfield, but more out on the wide side of things poses a bit of a different scenario to it or whatnot. So it's a tough one with Kulusevski, but we have to be patient. That's the main thing. We have to have a bit of patience. We have to understand that he's been thrown to the wolves, so to speak, this season because we had to play him as a second striker when Morata went out for all that time because there was no other options. We know we started him up there at the start of the season, and it was the first match. Man, he scored a goal. You know, he connected with Ronaldo and whatnot, but all the other instances, that link with Ronaldo isn't there. And I think Kulusevski would probably do better if a guy like Morata was in there, because I still see Morata, the true nine, as a key. And even in this one, though he struggled and whatnot, it's what he does. It's the attention he grabs. It's how he moves, and it just helps the other guys. So it's still a big part of it. But we're going to move on to, and it's funny, Jordan says, can we talk about the Makalele of the team? Danilo. And yeah, I want to talk about Danilo in the midfield there. Just Danilo in general has been absolutely incredible this season. It's been incredible to see. He's been so consistent, really, and anywhere we've asked, you know, and man, it's impressive to see. But I can't help, you know, we think back, and I know it hurts to think back to it, but the Porto match or whatnot, I think that was a huge missing piece for Juve, was Danilo. I heard the shouts for, you know, subbing off Bonucci, and we were controlling the match, and he was this, the passes out wide to Chiesa and whatnot. But for me, not having Danilo in that hurt the most. And I think like that is a testament to Danilo, because if we remember back to last season, and I will admit, I was incredibly frustrated with him. He was not looking anything near this, but man, he is so big for this team right now in this season. How do you guys feel about that statement? He was probably arguably the strongest that we missed in that Porto match. You guys agree with that, or how do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but
no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just watching the Porto match, I just felt like a lot of their opportunities that they got was because Danilo was missing. I mean, the chemistry of Juventus, if you're one or two starters down, I mean, Danilo being out, everything else, it throws off the whole balance. So while Porto didn't control the match, didn't get an extreme amount of chances, the chances that they got would have been a lot less had Danilo been in the game, because we're missing somebody. I mean, and you kind of saw it in the first leg where we made two mistakes. They scored 2 goals, but outside of those 2 mistakes, I mean, we pretty much locked Porto down defensively. And in the second leg, I just felt like the chances that they got, part of it was Danilo missing, and it kind of threw off the chemistry of the whole team. Because Danilo, he's played at a high level for so many seasons, going back to Manchester City when we made the trade for him for Cancelo. So he's used to playing at the big name squads. He did it at Man City. He did it at Juventus. I think that experienced player of his caliber threw off the chemistry just enough, and we saw what happened against Porto. Yeah. But this match he did well, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Francisco, Danilo this season, arguably our best, or what?
I'm not thinking about Cancelo anymore, honestly.
No,
I'm not even thinking about Cancelo anymore. And
yeah,
we need a fullback, but honestly, from what I've seen from Danilo, I'm really pleased in all senses, and I'm seeing good leadership from him also. I'm seeing him not being afraid to scream out or to curse out anybody on that back line, and that's including the league. He's not afraid of curse out the league. He's not afraid of curse out Bonucci. He's like, I don't give a damn about that armband. Do your job, or I will curse you out. And he's not Chiellini, because Chiellini is never in a bad position, but he's showing a leadership, and he's playing many games. Danilo has been crucial for us with all the Juve injuries. And I've not seen a game this season where I'll say, oh my God, that's the worst game I have ever seen. No, he had average games which every player has, but bad games, it's always been average or more than average. And in many
Yeah.
occasions, he hasn't been the main guy. But if you see the game again, the one-on-ones won them all. And you're like, oh my God, what he's doing. There was one header that he did during the game, that one cross, and the way he just went up and get that thing out of here, it was spectacular. And he's been that good for us. Defensively, he's been offensively, he's been trying. He's not the most technically gifted player, of course, but he's been trying. And he goes forward, and he's not afraid to push the ball forward. And
Yeah.
that's something that I like, and he's not afraid of that. And I'm very, very pleased with Danilo. And I'm very happy for him because he had been criticized a lot, and fairly enough, because he didn't perform last year. But since the beginning of the season, I've seen Danilo, and the first two games I was like, oh my God, what's happening with Danilo? It's like, oh, he's going to go down. Then he hasn't gone down.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's great that you touched on the leadership side of things too, and how he's not afraid to have a go at anybody. And AJ even saying like Danilo has a big club mentality in how he plays, and he really really does, and he's established himself as that one of those guys for this team through what he does on the pitch. And I love that he's not afraid to go at a guy, but he's also first to raise his hand and ask forgiveness when he does make the big errors. And that's the big thing, is recognizing it in himself, holding himself to a standard that he's trying to hold the other players accountable to. That's massive, right? And we've seen the flip side of things, and I think we'll probably get to it in a little bit too. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, Danilo's been absolutely massive. And now talking a bit about flip side, but Francisco, go ahead before we get to the next topic, which I'm sure is going to get everybody fired up here.
He won me over with that Torino goal. It's all I have to say. For me, the top Juventus goal this season.
Yeah.
Against Sassuolo. Against Sassuolo.
Yeah. That was awesome, man. That was awesome. Now, Cristiano. Okay, and for everybody in the chat, I'm gonna share something before I open it up to Chris and Francisco, and you guys can all get your comments in and whatnot. But I couldn't help, and this is not for this big hot take or anything. I could care less, and all that stuff. This is me being honest as a Juventino to everybody listening that watches and whatnot. I couldn't help but feel incredibly frustrated yesterday, and it sucks because you've got this guy bagging a hat trick. We're winning. You're winning this match. You need to win this match because you need to chase the Scudetto and not. But I would be lying because I saw all the tweets. I saw all the messages saying, get over Porto. Get over it. Well, here's the thing. Massive investment made by Juventus. Okay? And number one, he was not brought in for the likes of Cagliari. Okay? He was not brought in for that. But the bigger issue for me is this guy bags a hat trick. He reacts to all this criticism and whatnot. He does his celebration and whatnot. But why could you not take yourself to this level for this past month and a half where we've seen the attitude that's been the complete opposite of the attitude we just praised Danilo for? That's the part as a fan, as a Juventino, I could not help but be frustrated about. It felt like to me it took personal criticism for him to rise up and get to that Cristiano we won. At the end of the day, sure, you roast Godin and Rugani, but I don't need you to roast Godin and Rugani. I need you over two legs against Porto to be that guy. I needed that reaction. I needed that in that second league. And with all due respect, I understand like tactically and what Porto did and whatnot. They made life hard, but it was the body language, the demeanor that we've seen for the past month and a half that led me to just feel a bit frustrated. Not taking anything away from the guy. The guy, yeah, he's the GOAT. He scores all these goals. Is he Juventus's problem? I've said in a tweet, he did not fail Juventus. He produced. He scored all the goals. He did everything he needed to do. But again, as a fan, I can't help but feel a little bit frustrated and annoyed that we get it now. I'm pissed off. I'm fucking pissed, okay? Let's just say I'm pissed off, okay? It hurts, man. You expect that level. It felt like he needed that personal criticism to get to where he needed to be. Why couldn't he bring himself to that level when we needed him most? And the part that frustrates me is Chiesa busts his ass off. Ronaldo's going at him nonstop all this time, And for me, is he the problem? No, not by any means is he the problem. I think the whole thing was a lot of patchwork from Juventus, and we weren't prepared properly to be able to afford this guy the luxury of having him on the team. Too many holes around the roster. So I'm not saying he is Juventus' problem, but now the circumstances we're in, I think he makes it difficult for you to get out of that. And that's just what I feel. But in terms of this, all the celebration, everybody rising up and saying, oh, look at Ronaldo, look at what he does. I can't help but feel a little pissed off, a little frustrated. That's me being honest. And now I'm going to leave it up to you guys. I'm going to leave it up to everyone joining us live to share your thoughts. But that's just kind of how I felt. Did anybody feel the same, or is it just me? What are you guys thinking when you saw this reaction from him and whatnot?
War in the comments. There's gonna be a war in the comments.
Man,
well, yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh man, it's been a whole mixed bag. I mean, you think about the Porto match where he doesn't score at all. I mean, and then if you just look at the Champions League as a whole since he joined Juventus, I mean, yes, he had that game against Atletico Madrid. Yes, he scored those goals against Ajax, but it's the same thing. If you're brought in to score one goal in a Champions League match, or you're brought in, we brought him in to try to chase the Champions League, and before he joined, we got to the finals 2 out of 3 years, back in 15 and 17, and we didn't have Ronaldo, we didn't have a set superstar. But I felt like the chemistry at Juventus at that point was a lot different. Now, going here, we didn't bring him in to score a hat trick against Cagliari or Crotone or any other teams at the bottom. No disrespect to the teams at the bottom of the table. No disrespect at all to any teams that we faced. But we didn't bring him in for those. We played Inter over 2 legs in the Coppa Italia. Right? Ronaldo scores 2 goals. I think he scored all 3 goals. No, I'm sorry. There was only 2. I apologize. He scored both goals against Inter, and we ended up advancing to the final. But the thing is, it's good that you're doing that, but when we need you most, where are you? Why have you turned into – I feel like he's turned into a ghost. Now, we won the Scudetto last year because of his goals. I will admit that. I think without his goals, we probably would not have won the Scudetto last year. But this season, it felt like a huge drop-off. I mean, you don't show up against Porto, you act like you're frustrated, and then he does the thing with the ear after he scores a goal, after he gets a hat trick, and I'm thinking, that's great that you got a hat trick in that game, but we need you to step up game in and game out, because there's games where he just takes a day off. I mean, there's games where I've seen this season, I can't remember which one, that he might have actually been the worst player. It's not often, but I do think there's been a game or two where he just completely hasn't shown up at all.
I think the thing for me is, and again, people need to realize, it's not it's hard to put into words almost. But the thing is that his goals, the production, that's not the issue. The issue becomes the attitude. It's that attitude. It's he needs to be that guy we feed off. We're talking about a guy like Danilo that's been, this guy that we're commending, we're praising for this. And if you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, we're not talking about just Porto. Okay, so while everybody wants to talk, focus on the Porto thing, I'm using that as the example because it's the most recent. But it was a month and a half, literally, of watching him sulk, piss, and moan over everything on the pitch that frustrates the hell out of me. That reaction yesterday, we need that consistently from him. I want that attitude out of him all the time. It's been Juve against the world this entire season. It felt like that with the calls. It felt like that with the planning and game rescheduling and all this. I need that Cristiano the entire time. So my only criticism of this whole scenario and him is be that guy that you're supposed to be the entire way through. Okay, and you do those celebrations in the camera. That's great. Celebrate all your goals. It's historic. He just passed Pele, even with all the goals that they consider for Pele and whatnot. Massive achievement. Again, that attitude though that I saw for a month and a half, the pissing, moaning, and stuff. That's the part that drives me nuts because it was leading in through all these crucial moments. Okay. And a lot of people are just scared to voice their true opinions because of, the following that Cristiano Ronaldo has. But I'm telling you, there's a bit of a trade-off and it's tough. Now it becomes an issue with Juventus because, they're talking about, is he going to move? Is he going to leave? Whatnot. Mirko Di Natale on this podcast said a few days ago that Juve tried to extend him before Porto. The meeting never took place or whatnot, but they still have every intention of extending the contract, at the very least staying for the remainder of his term. The thing here is just, I'm being honest with all you guys. That's just how I feel. I was frustrated that he brought it out now because I've been asking for it for a bit, and I've voiced my opinion on this pod saying I don't like that attitude. Okay. The knockout goals, I see AJ or Lewis is bringing in the stats, in 3 years he's done his part. Absolutely, he's done his part. Nobody's saying he hasn't, but there's been issues in the attitude as of late, and you can't help but say, if you were from the outside looking in, I've had people text me that don't even watch Juventus, that watch the odd match here and there, that say, man, what's with Ronaldo? What's with Ronaldo? I get that text literally so much in the past month and a half. What's with Ronaldo? He's been given out that language that he's incredibly unhappy, and for the younger guys on the team and everything, he can't be that guy. He needs to be the one that pulls everyone with him, like we saw yesterday. Just me voicing an opinion. Francisco, Cristiano, your take on the whole thing. Can you see that side? What are your thoughts, And go ahead.
Cristiano, like I call him in Spanish, el matador. El matador. Well, as you said, everybody who is watching or listening to this, we need to make clear that we understand that we're not saying that everything that Juventus has lost is because Cristiano and he hasn't performed. No, Cristiano does plays a part, because when you are the star of the team, you get the praise, but you also get the blame. When you lose, that's part of it. You get both. And Juventus does tactically has been irregular, to say the least. And in the years that Cristiano has been there, it's not only this year, because the other years we have won Scudetto, but we haven't been as regular and as killer as we're supposed to be, as Juventus is supposed to be. That's the reality of the situation. With Cristiano, the thing is, he's not as participant in the games. I've noticed that he's not participating in the game, which is good. It's okay for a striker not to be participating in the game all the time, because at the end of the day, let's say the striker touches the ball 4 times in a game, to say a number, and he scores 2 goals, then nobody's saying nothing. The thing is, Cristiano has shown what I is saying, that that attitude, which I don't like, but frankly, I don't I don't get bothered by people screaming at each other on the pitch, because you are competitive, and that's great that you are screaming about at each other. But at the end of the day, I want you to run also. Like we said with Danilo, I don't mind Danilo screaming, saying to Bonucci, "Get your head together. We need to do this." But what I like also that Danilo does is, yeah, he screams to Bonucci, but after he screams to Bonucci, he's running back to his position and doing what he's supposed to do. So at the end of the day, it's all about attitude. We had the same opinion with Ronaldo. If you take Ronaldo's deal in a vacuum, it was a good deal. On a vacuum by itself, it was a good deal. $100 million. He has performed spectacularly. He has been good for us. You see the numbers. He has done well. As I said before, we haven't won everything. We haven't won the Champions League, but it's not all his fault, because our midfielder has been crap the last few years. But at the end of the day, he does have a responsibility, because you can say, "Oh, he's not the captain." Yeah, he's a leader on that team. He's one of the leaders of that team, both in name, experience, and performances. So I do want more of him about his attitude. I didn't mind last game's attitude, and I don't mind that he misses chances. What I don't like are those games where he's not there.
Yeah.
If he shoots the ball 14 times and he doesn't score, I don't mind it, because he tried. That's the same thing that I tweeted about Bernardeschi when he came back from Italy, that he had those 2 games with Italy that he performed well. I sent a tweet and I said the same thing. Juventus fans don't mind that you're trying, you're missing. It's not about trying and missing. It's that you're not trying. So I don't care if you try 14 times. Chiesa doesn't do every move correctly. He misses a lot. But what Juventus fans like is that he misses a lot. He loses the ball. He runs back, and the next play he asks for the ball and tries it again. And he shoots and runs and keeps shooting and keeps trying. McKennie, the same thing. That's what we like. Yeah. And that's the attitude that I want from Ronaldo in the future, now and in the future.
Well, that effort, that fight, that grinta everybody talk, that's Juve. That's Juve historically. That's why everybody's taken to Chiesa so quickly, is because of that attitude. He embodies the persona that Juve's, it's what we've all come to know and love. That's my biggest thing with the Cristiano thing, is now that he's done this, I expect that for the rest of the season out, because every game is a must win now. Pirlo talked about it, is chase the Scudetto. So now I don't want to see it just in this one-off, like hold yourself to that level now the rest of the way. But it'll be interesting to see how things unfold, because for a month and a half here, I've been talking to people and I've been telling them in chats, he's looked like to me like he holds himself above and doesn't think that the rest of the club is at that caliber. Whether he believes it or not, he can't show it as a leader of the team. You can't have that body language that, these guys, like, they're just killing me, and he looks to me almost like he's been checked out. That's the easiest way I could put it. He's looked checked out for the most of it. So
I have to say, sorry.
Yeah.
I have to say, the moments that I do like Cristiano and that's the Cristiano that I like, is when you see him, he's trying to press and he looks back and he's saying the guys, come on, press with me. Don't stand back, come on. And you see it a lot of times. And if Pirlo is not asking him to run and pressure, he's not asking him, but he's doing it. And you see it, and he gets angry. And I like that. he gets pissed off when he goes and he sees that he's the only one in the other field. And he's like, come on, don't stand back. Come on with me. That's the Cristiano that I like. That's the mentality that we want. It's not he misses or it's not that he didn't play good against Porto. The Porto thing, for me, it's not that he should have and he didn't score. It's not about that. It's that he wasn't present. Other than the assist for Chiesa, he wasn't present. And I want to be there. For good or for bad, or be in the game.
Yeah. And I think, Antonio sums it up quite well here, and this is exactly what I'm trying to say. Ronaldo's never had a Cruz, Isco, or Modric supplying him like he did at Madrid. He's not the problem, but he's not a long-term solution anymore. That's kind of exactly it. And this is what I'm trying to let everybody understand, is that he's not the issue, but will the issue be able to get better with him still around and the finances? That's the tough thing, is I can't see us getting out of this area that we're in, especially during the current circumstances with COVID, without that trade-off. He either has to restructure or something, right? So yeah, by all means, he's not the issue, but I'm just saying I couldn't help but feel frustrated in Cristiano. We're going to get to a few little topics as we wrap up this pod here. Quickly, I saw this one out on social media, and I want to get everybody involved that's on the live here. Best players so far this season, in your opinion, for Juventus. Chris, who would you say, in your opinion, who do you find the best player so far for Juve?
It's got to be Chiesa, in my opinion. I mean, I know a lot of people probably agree with me. I hate to say that, I'd like to bring a point for somebody else on the team to try to be the devil's advocate, but it has to be Chiesa. I mean, I think it's hands down. I think, there's been a lot of injuries. A lot of people miss time, of course, Ronaldo and Dybala and stuff like that. So we didn't get a fair take of the full roster at capacity. But if we're looking at an all-around player, it's Chiesa. He creates opportunities. He scores goals. Rarely has a bad game. Always brings out maximum amount of energy. That's it. I mean, I really don't. I can't come up with a case for any other player. I hate to say it.
No problem.
It's got to be Chiesa.
Maybe Francisco and I can bring up a case for other players. So, Francisco, your best player for Juve so far this season?
For me, Bonucci. I'm just joking. Yeah, I can imagine the chat. What are you saying, Bonucci? No, I'm just joking, guys. But I'm not gonna say Chiesa, and it's not a wrong answer. To Alex, who I saw the comment, I'm sorry, but my answer is gonna be different. For me, it's Danilo. Danilo is our best player, and because I'm biased because Al knows this. I'm a goalkeeper defender guy. Those are the guys that I like. And maybe I'm being a little biased, but Danilo has been, without a doubt, the rock in this Juventus team. Without a doubt. He's been present every time. And they asked him once, do you worry about playing all those games? And he is like, no, that's what I'm here for, to play a lot of games. And I will play a lot of games. And that's what the team needs from me. And I will be on the pitch every time. And as I said before, I haven't seen any horrendous game of Danilo this year. Anyone. You cannot signal me a game like you say, wow, this is the worst performance of his worst performance. No, you can say, well, he didn't play brilliant today, but he wasn't horrendous. He was average today. The worst thing that I've said from Danilo this year is, oh, he was average. The worst thing I've said from Danilo this year, defensively, has been very solid, winning duels on that side of when he was playing like on the makeshift on the right. The one once he was killing the other guys, killing them.
Yeah.
It was great intercepting passes. moving, pushing the ball forward. Chiesa has been great, and I love Chiesa, and I know he's gonna be at Juventus for many years. But the only thing I wish that would have found Danilo before. If this was the level that he was going to give us, I wish that we would have bought Danilo before.
Yeah.
And I want him to stay in Juventus for more years because the guy, he's just very intelligent and he's very solid for us.
Yeah. So for me, it's easy. It's an easy one. It's Pinsolio. So
hands down.
Hands down. So
my red card.
Yeah, Pinsolio. Okay, so for me, it was between, when I thought about this and sitting there last night, it's between both those guys for me. It's between Chiesa and Danilo. But in my personal opinion, I give the edge to Danilo, and the reason is because they're both massive impacts when they're not in the lineup. You notice when either one of them is not in the lineup. But the thing with Danilo is that this season, he's stepped up in every single role or position that's been asked, and he hasn't disappeared in any one of them. So he's literally slotted into all these positions, and he's arguably been the best at all of those positions that he's slotted into this season. And it's the consistency. It's the consistency throughout the season. Even in his off performances, it's still nothing that we're like saying, "Oh my God, that's terrible." He's been incredible throughout. And if we're looking at certain games where he's not in, and we say, "Man, it hurt most not having him in there," I think for me, I think Danilo, Freddie Church, a close second for me. It was really, really hard. But I think those are the two guys for us for sure this season. So awesome to see your guys' takes. Awesome to see everybody on the live too. Everybody seems to be, pretty much consistent with Danilo and Chiesa and whatnot. And a good shout can be made for Cuadrado and Colin bringing in Cuadrado and his importance. 50th assist for Cuadrado yesterday. That puts him third on the list. He's 7 assists behind Pavel Nedved. And of course, he's got quite a few to catch up to old Alessandro Del Piero there, who I think has around 91, if memory serves me right. But great touching on that with you guys here. Now, real quick, Napoli game got rescheduled. So Benevento ends up being next up for Juve. What do we? How do we feel? Does that benefit? Does it benefit us? Does it benefit them? Like, here's my honest take. I put it out the second I got it. I kind of laughed. You have to laugh because it's become comedy now. At this point, this game at this point, I think the question became, after they said it's going to be reslated for April 7th or whatever, everybody was putting 2021 question mark. Like, what year are we even going to play this game in? Like, is it even going to be this year? It's become comical. But regardless, I don't really think it obviously would be advantageous for them because of the matches in that row for them, the teams. So it's no doubt what they're trying to do there. But ultimately, as far as Juve concerned, nothing changes, in my opinion, for Juve. Every match right now is crucial for us and has to be a victory. So the thing with us is now we get a really, really good rest before Benevento. And it's going to be one game at a time for Juve and just get the job done in all of them. So it is what it is. But your guys' thoughts on this game that just feels like it's never going to be played and whatnot, and just the games from Napoli?
Yeah, I do think it helps you a lot because there's a lot of players that are coming up of injuries or that are dealing with some certain injuries like McKennie, which will get rested. So if you ask, as a Juventus fan, does he help Juventus? Hell yeah, it does. Hell yeah, it does. I'm very happy about it as a Juventus fan. I'm sipping on martini, saying, "Thank God it happened." Now, is it fair? No, it's not fair. Roma was angry about it, and I'm like, I completely agree with them. It's not fair at all, because to play the calendar that you have, not because of Juventus elimination that now, or because Napoli doesn't want to play that day, so they don't get to play and they get to rest. It's not fair at all. As a Juventus fan, oh, I love it. Of course, the players get rested. We get players back from injury. Praying to God that finally that knee of Dybala gets better. Praying to God, but as it is fair or not, it's not fair at all. It's not fair at all. We're being completely honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's become a bit of a game there and a bit of a shit show with the league there. Chris, your thoughts?
I agree. It's kind of like this rest is like the last hurrah. I mean, we have the Coppa Italia final coming up in May, and we have a spew of games, obviously without the Champions League anymore. But we were in the Champions League last week, played this weekend. We were supposed to play Napoli midweek, then Benevento, and then the list goes on and on. So this is like the last hurrah where we get a lot of rest or a decent amount of rest, and basically make a run at the Scudetto, see if we can make a late charge, and hopefully by this point everyone's well rested, everyone knows what's in front of them, and it's very rare. I mean, for a team near the top of the table to get this much rest at the end of near the end of the season. I mean, yeah. I feel like Napoli got eliminated from the Europa League, we got eliminated from the Champions League, so maybe it benefits both teams. Both teams get rest, but I feel like for Juventus strictly, this is it. This is the last hurrah. We get the rest this week, and then we have to make a charge the rest of the season during the rest of March, April, and May, and see what happens. Roll the dice, see what happens.
Absolutely, and we absolutely have to get Dybala back. This is unbelievable. It's absolutely strange. Ken P coming in with a side question: will Juve release McKennie to the USA? Or request him to stay for rest and rehab? That's going to be a tough one to see if he'll be released for that duty there. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think anybody is, because he's been playing. He didn't look as bothered in his last set of minutes, but it's going to be, I think, one of those things we'll just have to see. I think it could go either way. I could see him being held back, but I could also see him being released for it. I think in those decisions, you usually see the players that will determine what it is, and you usually hear the reports like so-and-so has set themselves back, held themselves back so that they can recover, right? I don't think these guys would be taking on extra games if there's something lingering and issues there, right? So I think that's kind of it. And as far as Benevento goes, with them coming up, we got a score to settle. We had that draw earlier on the season. So again, we got to look at getting that taken care of. In terms of this is where we wanted to wrap up. I know Francisco had some thoughts you want to share in terms of transfers for next season and what fans are really asking for or whatnot. So Francisco, I'm going to open this up to you, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how it falls in line with kind of what Mirko Di Natale said on the interview. But go ahead, Francisco.
Oh, okay. And I wanted to ask you guys in the comments, what type of player are we really looking at? Because obviously, by Mbappe or by those guys are not coming this summer, guys. So don't think about them. But what kind of players are we looking at? Because I see some Juventus fans speaking about really young talents like Milan, the Milan case, which is completely different from Juventus because they have to go for those players because they don't have the money. There are an economic situation which doesn't let them go for certain types of players. Juventus, obviously, we're not as good financially as years before in the sense of there is a pandemic and we do have problems. We do have less money as every team in Europe that is not called Chelsea, PSG, or Manchester City. but we do have the capability of going, maybe not for veteran players, all players, or more proven players. I give you an example. DePaul and Awad. Those are two different players. They are different in the sense, and Mirko, what Mirko said in the podcast was pretty good in the sense that in tactically they are different, and some of them have more. Um, I think Awad has more magic on his feet than DePaul, but DePaul is a more complete player. But you see the contrast between a very young player that, frankly, is very talented, but we don't know what he's going to turn out to be. And with Awad, we still don't know. Maybe he wins the Ballon d'Or, or maybe he comes to Juve and doesn't do anything. And we have played on the ball who hasn't played in a big club, but he has proven in Serie A that he can be a player in a high level in this league. So I don't know what do you guys think? Are we going for those bets, or are we going for more consistent players?
I think, in my opinion, it's I'm hoping this has to do with Pirlo, but I think it has more to do with the profile of the player. I think they're starting to pay less attention now. I think after making many errors in terms of like experience and whatnot, like I think you're trying to make a good blend here, but I think a lot of factors in here too is when these younger guys are coming in too. I think that's a reflection of the books as well, because you'll have these guys that'll be on lesser salaries. It gives them a bit of that breathing room. If they can find good enough quality to slot in and their roles that fit the club. So say, for instance, a defensive central midfielder like Locatelli, who can spread the ball around and play it nice and can control that game, great. A creative midfielder like one of Awad or DePaul fits. Also lighter on salaries. Awar more than DePaul, but DePaul's got a pretty healthy fee on him as well from Udinese. But again, and DePaul's not young by any means. You know, he's what, 27, 28 years old. So I believe, if I'm correct, 26 to 28, somewhere in that range. But
26.
Yeah. So again, it's more profiles, and I think also the combination of the books. But I'd like to think that's from Pirlo, and that Pirlo is requesting certain traits, because if you watch this team, it's evident that there's guys, like when you watch other teams, you watch other plays. Like, for instance, the goal, the PK that Udinese earned this weekend, that DePaul plays that ball over the top. Who on our team makes that pass?
Nobody.
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody.
So I think it's a combination of everything, the books, but I think they need to get back to the basics in terms of how they build the squad. And it's one of my reasons why I'm frustrated with a lot of people that are so quick to just say Pirlo out, because you get another coach, that's another system, that's another change up. You know, do we have the players set to fit that? You know, you have to get some stability. But in terms of the players, I understand if we get too much youth, you know, it's a good balance. I mean, Chiellini retiring, that's another reason why I don't think Demiral needs to go by any means. You know, you hang on to Demiral. Like, Demiral and De Ligt should be the staples. You know, and it's interesting to see, because I think there will be offers for Demiral. If the offers come in, it'd be interesting to see how Juve reacts, because for me, I think he's got to stay, especially if Chiellini's looking at retirement. You know, Chris, what do you think in terms of transfer, and what kind of impression are you starting to get from Juve as you start to see links with these kind of players?
I'd like to see another striker added to the mix. Ronaldo's not getting any younger. You know, Morata's getting up there in age. Dybala with the injuries and everything. I don't think we have. I think we only have 3 strikers, because we're trying to get Kulusevski up there. We're trying to get, you know, Chiesa up there. Someone like I don't know, people are going to laugh at, like a Musa Barrow type of player, someone that knows how to score goals. I mean, he's young. He's probably going to have a big fee on our hands, but he scored a lot of goals last couple seasons. I really don't think we're going to have to get another defender, of course, with Chiellini going, Bonucci not getting any younger. But I do think we need a striker as well if we can get one. I don't think that's the top priority, but it's definitely up there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think, you've got a comment right here that might be more in lines with Francisco's thinking this. I'd go for proven players rather than prospects. This takes us back to, again, not that he's the problem, but it makes it hard with Ronaldo's salary in the books. Without a restructuring there, it's harder to get those proven guys because the salaries are up there. And it's one of those things where I think, like, say Pogba even does want to come, I don't think we can facilitate it.
No,
we can't. That's why I didn't say Pogba. I was thinking about it.
You couldn't. You just can't facilitate that, and that's why I think we're seeing, Juve get into, Locatelli talk, DePaul talk, and stuff like that. And I think it's good placement. These guys that they picked up, like Rovella and whatnot, whether he plays or not for Juve eventually, again, they're building up bargaining chips that they can use and whatnot. But right now, for me, it's a combination of the roles and the money. It's about the money, and the salaries is going to play a big part. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Mirko, for those of you that didn't watch, it was a fantastic interview. We have other free agents. He said it on the pod. Juve will work the free agency because of the circumstances and whatnot. And now you get into interesting discussions because you've got Aguero, you've got Depay in there, and there's a lot of options out there. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think what comes out of the free agency market will be what they can't do financially, right? So if they can lock up a midfielder financially there, you could see a free agent, maybe a backup striker or whatnot. Right now, I think Morata, you extend the loan for another year. I don't think you make it outright just yet. I think you take that 10 million euro option again and continue the loan, in my opinion, and then move out from there. Fullbacks. Need a fullback. And Francisco.
I wanted to say, I think Juve will be looking a lot in Torino's direction the rest of the season. A lot. Because if Torino goes to Serie B, which I'm not advocating Torino to go to Serie B because I don't hate Torino at all. And they are rivals in Turin, yes, but I don't have any animosity against Torino personally. But if Torino does go down, you have two guys in that team that could play Juventus, because nobody will argue that Belotti is a striker for any team in Serie A. And other than maybe Bayern Munich, who has Lewandowski, or Dortmund, who has Haaland, he can play any team in Europe. And I keep saying it, and everybody is ignoring me. There's this kid that plays right wing back who's called Wilfred Singo. Nobody's watching it, and every time he has on a one-on-one duel, he doesn't lose it. Ask Juventus what happened the last time we played Torino on that side. How many duels did Singo lose? No.
Yeah, and that's a great show too, Francisco, is to keep an eye on that team, and if they go, that'll open up things too. So there's a lot of twists and turns that could happen from here to the year end. So you take everything with a grain of salt. It's nice when guys like Mirko come on the show though, because it like gives you a little bit of insight, and it gets rid of some rumors, and some thoughts people might have. But it's going to be very, very interesting to get them on right around when the Mercato opens in the summer. So it'll be interesting to see. guys, obviously, this has been a blast. We had definitely some heated topics. The chat was very, very active today, which is awesome. But
I got angry. I got angry today. I got angry at Cristiano today. Cristiano.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime. And congratulations to Chris, who had a baby boy this past week. So congrats again.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
All the best. And hopefully, we'll talk to everybody this weekend after the Benevento match, and hopefully we have another victory to celebrate. So until then, again, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Let's see how the season plays out, but it's far, far from over, my friends. I still see a lot of Juventini kind of down in the dumps or whatnot. Just keep the faith. Keep the faith. Okay? Fino alla fine. Till the bitter, bitter end. Again, thank you everybody who took part in the live. Thank you to the great guests. Pleasure as always. We'll talk this weekend before Benevento and after Benevento. Ciao, everybody.